This is frankly incredible. Joe Rogan and Candace Owens, some of the biggest voices in right-wing politics, have come out against Donald Trump and his illegal, unconstitutional detainment of legal residents from America to El Salvador. Joe Rogan, who I want to show you here first, actually ends up quoting Benjamin Franklin. So, let's watch this, and I'll tell you why I think it's so important.
What about due process? No, fuck that. Well, here's the problem with fuck that. The problem with things that are going in a radical direction, and then there's an overcorrection. So the overcorrection is lack of due process. The overcorrection is like round them all up, ship them to jail. Like that's like some things that you say when you're not thinking things through. Like, what do you do about all the criminals? Take them all, fucking send them to El Salvador.
Yeah.
What about due process? No, fuck that. Well, here's the problem with fuck that. What if you are an enemy of, let's not say any current president. Let's pretend we got a new president, totally new guy in 2028. And this is a common practice now of just rounding up gang members with no due process and shipping them to El Salvador. You're a gang member. No, I'm not. Prove it. What? I got to go to court. No,
Yeah.
no due process.
That's
Right?
dangerous, Joe.
That's dangerous.
dangerous.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous. We got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. I think due process exists for a reason, and the reason is it is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit, and then live in a cell, live in a cage with a bunch of
People who did commit shit.
Here it is, Benjamin Franklin. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
That has survived hundreds of years. It's incredibly accurate, and it is the foundation of freedom. Like, we have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters. You can't, like, what is that? When you fight monsters, be careful that you don't become one.
Become one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's very important. You know, you can't do that. You know, it's one of those things where to support one side of this, you have to deny some like basic human values. Either way, like to support just rounding people up and just assuming they're all gang members. I'm not saying they're doing that, but this is the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
They get a bunch of people in a room, they rope them all in, and one guy's just someone's cousin picking someone up to give him a ride home. That's possible.
And now you're back on the one innocent person now you're right back.
And what if
with
that dude is not doing anything wrong and he's got some stupid tattoos and they decide that this guy's a gang member, and now you're in a prison in El Salvador and you're not even from El Salvador. And now, you know, you were just a hairdresser or you were a tattoo artist
Family
or whatever
man,
you are.
yeah.
You know, you came over here and maybe you got a green card and maybe you don't. Maybe you were just given asylum, because a lot of people from Venezuela were given asylum in America.
Yeah.
And then you get shipped to El Salvador where you're not even from El Salvador.
I got to tell you, this is so important that Joe Rogan is saying this, but I also think because his audience does not get the same amount of information that we do. And they certainly don't get the same types of information that we do. But secondly, it just goes to show that this is an issue that is terrible for Trump. That we have someone like Joe Rogan defending due process for migrants who are seeking asylum, and he is really breaking this down in a way that I think makes it really accessible to so many people. There's not a lot of legalese. It's just like, hey, I think it's bad if one person gets swept up with a bunch of bad people. Then we should probably rethink the way that we're doing this process. And there's so many people on the right who aren't Joe Rogan who are saying, well, you know, they're here illegally. They're here illegally. And so it's really good that he is breaking this down in such an accessible way. And he's not the only one. Candace Owens also came out against this too.
Where are all of those free speech people who grifted off of free speech and who won't say anything?
David Friedman, who actually was Trump's ambassador to Israel in his first term, he doesn't just stop at progressives and their critique of Israel.
You're alluding to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, none of them are any good on the right. On the left, I don't like any of these anti-Semites, and I'm not shy about it. There's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding, and that's what the Trump administration is doing for the first time.
That was an answer to a question about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. So we're not talking about student visas anymore. So Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and everyone else, you start slightly criticizing Israel. We got a jail in Louisiana and then one in El Salvador that Israel can send you to via the US government.
It's insane. Okay, it is insane. Time for Americans to wake up to what is happening, okay, because our freedoms will be taken away very quickly. I will not tolerate it, whether it's happening on the left or the right.